All right. Good evening. I'll call the meeting to order. This is September 22nd. We are live at the Aquilina Howell Center for our regularly scheduled business meeting of the Leon County School Board. And with that, I will turn it over to the superintendent.
Madam Chair, if I may, at this time I would like to recognize and turn the microphone over to our newest school board member here to be inducted after she gives the pledge and the thought for the day. So Miss Arsha Harris from Lawton Childs High School, we're all yours for the pledge.
Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Wonderful. And do you also have a thought for the day, Ms. Harris?
Yes, sir. My thought of the day comes from an amazing woman that persevered through great adversity in society. Ruth Bader Ginsburg, recently deceased Supreme Court Justice, once said, "Fight for the things you care about, but do it in a way that will lead others to join you. A leader is nothing without followers. Without a community, there is no unity, and there is no fortitude. May her amazing soul rest in peace."
Beautiful.
That was absolutely,
Perfect.
yes, it was. And it looks like we have some guests with you. You want to introduce your family that's with you?
Yes, this is my mother, Miss Harris, Alicia Harris. This is my father, Avery Harris, and this is my brother, Avery Harris Jr.
Welcome. Very nice.
Welcome. Well, welcome. Avery Harris Jr., where do you go to school?
Montford.
Montford, and what grade are you in?
8th.
So you're running the school. You're running Montford, and your bigger sister's running Childs, huh?
Yes, sir.
All right.
That's neat. Good answer. All right. Well, we look forward to welcoming you in person or via Zoom as our school board member. And congratulations to you on this selection and to your family. I know they're very proud of you, and we look forward to working with you for the rest of the year. So welcome aboard.
All right. Don't go anywhere yet, because I'm going to bring your principal on to introduce you after we do the changes and additions. Okay, Arsha? All right, sweetie.
All right. So I'll recognize Vice Chair Ms. Bowen for the changes and additions to the agenda.
Yes, Madam Chair, they are as follows. Item 1, 19.03, Southwood Development of Regional Impact, DRI Amendment pulled. Item 2, add item 19.04, ratification of 4-year technology lease purchase agreement 1-1. I move the approval of these changes.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Motion by Ms. Bowen, second by Mr. Jones.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Jones.
I'd also like for us to please pull the following items. Items 12.01, the MOU for Leon County Schools and Family First. Also, item number 12.02, Leon County Schools and Solution Skills. And finally, item number 18.01, School Impact Analysis Forms.
Okay. You want to pull those for the entire
I
agenda?
want them to approve them from consent for us to discuss.
Okay. So you want to move them to discussion?
Yes, please.
All right. Very good. All right. Without objection, we have a motion and a second on the changes and additions as amended.
Well, I think because they were done after the motion came, we need to make sure that Ms. Bowen is okay with that being.
Ms. Bowen, are you all right with amending
That's
your
her
motion?
Yes, I amend that motion.
Okay. The amended motion, any objection? Show it unanimously approved. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Superintendent.
Madam Chair, at this time I'd like to recognize our proud principal of Lawton Childs High School, holding down the northern Leon County and southern part of the state of Georgia, Mr. Joe Burgess, to introduce our new school board member. Mr. Burgess.
Thank you, Mr. Superintendent, and talk to you and to our school board members.
Mr. Burgess, are you muted? We're having difficulty hearing you. Can you check?
Is that on our end? Did we have him muted?
I don't know. We just
Can't hear you, Joe.
try again.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Thank
Hear
you.
me now?
Okay. All right, sorry about that. Thank you to Superintendent, to the school board members, and it's my honor tonight to recognize the third student to be from Childs to be the student school board representative for the 33,000 plus students that we have in our county. And this is Mrs. Arsha Harris, and you guys already got a chance to meet her. And let me just tell you a lot of different descriptions of her. She is empathetic. She is thoughtful, caring. She's a leader. She is not afraid to ask. From the time she's come in as a student, she's always reached out to me on email, and I really appreciate that about her. At school, she also has leadership roles. She is our treasurer for our student body, and she does a great job with that. She's also in our SGA class, and she's just a leader. You will enjoy having her, and she's thoughtful. She listens to her classmates, and she will always bring ideas and opinions to you from many different perspectives. I also will tell you that she's a scholar. She has a 4.07 GPA. She takes a plethora of difficult courses, and her teachers will be able to tell you that she shines all the time. I mean, this is just a treating a treasure. Like I said, she's the third student that we've had to serve in this capacity, with previously Emily Blomley, you guys remember, and then Jordan Thompson before that. And so I'm honored. She's got great parents who you saw earlier with her brother. They give great support. She's going to go places, and we're just happy and honored to have her represent the Timberwolves and all the students of Leon County Schools. So right before you, we have Arsha Harris.
Congratulations, Arsha. You want to tell us a little bit more, other than what your principal already said? You want to tell us a little bit more about your things you're interested in, or just kind of give us a little personal piece of you? We can't wait to welcome you in person. I think you'll be down there by Miss Bowen when you get to the dais. So if you just want to tell us a little bit more about yourself.
I'm a senior at Childs. I'm a director and anchor club at Childs. I'm the president of Childs Ambassadors. I'm the senior class treasurer, as Mr. Burgess said. And I really love talking to new people, baking, helping out the community. I really enjoy events like this, and thank you so much for having me and this opportunity.
Great. Welcome.
We look forward to having you and your baked goods.
Yeah, you don't have to thank us, sweetie. I mean, your credentials prove themselves, and we are so excited to welcome you to the Leon County School Board, and as you represent your constituents, which are our 33,000 school children, and I'm sure you will represent them well. No pressure, by the way, but I'm sure you will represent their interests well. So welcome aboard.
Thank you.
All right, very good. So that takes us to Technology and Information Services, item 3.02.
Madam Chair, if I may, I'm going to wait and marry that item into an item that we have for consideration tonight.
Okay.
It'll make more sense when we get to it.
Okay. Takes us to recognitions, item 4.01.
Yes, Madam Chair, we do have exciting. We have some spotlights. We have a new school board member finally, and we have some recognitions. So at this time, I'd like to bring up Mr. James Cole, our Director of Transportation, to introduce a very, very special guest he has with him this evening. So, Mr. Cole.
Thank you. Greetings, Madam Chair, school board members, and Superintendent. First of all, it's an honor to lead the Transportation Department. I'm biased, but I think we have the best department in the district.
Good for you.
And a wonderful school opening. Thank you very much. You may applaud.
So, I tell my team all the time that of the nearly 12,000 students that we transport every day, our bus drivers and our bus assistants are the first interaction that they have with our school district, and they're the last interaction that they have with our school district. And so I try to just talk about the importance and how critical it is for the experience that our students have on the bus every day. And tonight I'm here to introduce one of our bus drivers who's been with us for nearly 20 years. She started with us February 19th, 2002. And so she's almost a 20-year veteran of the school district. She has been a dedicated employee, and she's here this evening because sometime around October 2019, we had a student that was missing. And I won't steal her thunder, I'll let her tell the story, but she is the she has been awarded the Florida Missing Children's Day Award for the Bus Operator of the Year. And so with that being said, I'm going to let Ms. Tawana Meeks come up and introduce herself and tell you about how she received this award and tell you a little bit about herself. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Tawana Meeks, and last school term, I had a young man come to my bus in the PM at Swift Creek Middle School. He was an Asian student, and when he boarded the bus, I said, "Excuse me, I never seen you before. Do you have a note to ride?" And he just kept walking, like I wasn't talking to him. So I said, "Excuse me." So the kids had to tap him and say, "Miss Tawana calling you. She wants you to come back up front." So I got him up front and I was like, "Do you have a note to ride the bus?" And he acted like he couldn't understand me. At the time, I didn't know he didn't speak any English. He had a tablet to translate for him. So I took him off the bus. I went to a school official. I said, he can't tell me where he lives to get off the bus, so can y'all tell me where I'm going to drop him? So Mr. Lynch called the office. It took us a minute because he couldn't give a parent name. He didn't have a phone number. And then when I took him home, when we figured out he lived in Weems Plantation, once I dropped him, I didn't know that he didn't have a key to get in the house. So his mother was frantic. She went back to the school. They couldn't locate him. They called the police. So Mr. Lynch called me. It was a Friday afternoon. I was at my grandmother's house. And he said, "Miss Tawana, we have a missing student. Is there any way that we could get the video from the bus?" So I said, "Well, Mr. Lynch, everybody's gone home now." I said, "Well, I could call my supervisor and see if we can go back to the compound." So that's what I did. So Miss Tracy met me back to the compound. We downloaded the video because they wanted the time he exited the bus, description of what he had on, what direction he went in, and was there anybody else, normal at the bus stop, because I have a lot of kids that get off at that particular stop and a lot of parents there in the afternoon. So I said, well, Mr. Lynch, at the time, that's when they were doing that construction in Wings. So I had to go back out. I had to circle around the block to go back out of there. I said, well, he went down the road. He didn't get in a car. So they was like, "You sure he didn't get in nobody's car?" I said, "No, he walked because I had to circle around and I saw him going down the road." So we downloaded. They kept calling the phone back and they was asking me all these questions. But finally they located him after 8:30 p.m. that night. They found him in the neighborhood in his backyard. He didn't have a key. He had no recollection of what time it was. It was dark at this point. And he was in his mother's backyard in a tent and he had fell asleep.
Oh.
Because at this point in time, 911 was getting ready to put out an Amber Alert for him. Yeah. So we did locate him and we just had to document everything that happened, when he got off the bus and what he had on, description of what direction he went in and all that. So I just did my job.
Oh.
Chris in here, I'm sure we can find a camera, but so for some reason, Miss Meeks, come back up here. I have a medal to give you of excellence. With COVID, I don't want to get too close, but I want to give you this medal. And for some reason, we were not invited to the party that the governor threw on behalf of Miss Meeks. But I don't know if y'all saw or not. She was in the picture with the governor and all these other distinguished guests from. This is a statewide recognition.
Wonderful.
Just so very proud of you, Miss Meeks. Come up here, come on, James. We're gonna get a picture. I don't care, COVID or no COVID. All right, all right, come on. Do this. How about that? You're right here. James, you're on the other side.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
1, 2, 3. Thank you, Ms. Meeks.
Thank you, Ms. Meeks. Wonderful job. Thank you.
Great care. Wonderful.
I wish we had time to see the video that Denver did about a bus driver this week, too. That was
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
awesome.
It was,
Actually, there were two, Madam Chair.
honest, that it made her cry.
I agree. I saw one by Miss Asia Miller, who invited us into her office, which was her bus. So the transportation department is doing some outstanding things. She called the office, her bus, the office, and called all of the students her babies, and we're talking about the longevity that, you know, the relationships go. And then there was Mr. K. Newty. Okay, you know what I'm talking about. But the man on the bus who was so very kind to a kindergarten student, did y'all see that one? She was very frantic and crying. It was her first day away from school, away from home, and he started saying, "The wheels on the bus go round and round, round and round." And
great.
it calmed her down, and I thought, now see, that kind of compassion and that kind of caring. So thank you. And thank them as well. Y'all do wonderful things there. You all are the receptionists for the superintendent and this board because you all see these children before any of us do. Outstanding jobs. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you very much. And I appreciate the fact that you said I was just doing my job.
Yes.
It's above and beyond, but we're grateful that you see it that way. So thank you for that. All right, takes us to persons to be heard. Ms. McKinney-Williams?
Yes, Madam Chair. There were 3 public comments that were sent to the persons to be heard at leonschools.net email address. Those comments were sent to board members prior to the meeting. They are attached to item 5.01, and they will be attached to the minutes of this meeting. In addition, we have 4 individuals who are here to speak. The first is Shari Gawanter. Please come, give us your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Shari Gawanter, Pontiac Drive, teacher at Leon County Schools. I have another snapshot to share with you. This is from across the district. Day 7, TechCon says that they've been waiting 25 webcams to arrive for digital students. Too many students across the district still not joining us online, and when they are, systems are crashing. Day 12, students showed up online for the first time because they had been waiting for equipment. 3 days, garbage not emptied, no vacuuming. I finally did it myself. Yes, I reported it daily. I have no idea how to get any accurate, reliable baseline data from the digital students, no matter how many times I ask parents not to give the answers. How do we do this and not waste time just giving tests? It's not informing anything. Hard to take attendance for digital students who won't put cameras on, are in and out of the frame, or their camera is on and there's nobody there. 6 school days blocking off 11 staff parking slots to pressure wash the parking lot. Leon County School COVID dashboard numbers are inaccurate. The data is underreported and not to be trusted. Please tell the school board that they are losing us. This year has broken me. I'm trying not to walk away, and luckily I have amazing administrators, but they can only do so much. If not for them, I would have already turned in my resignation. One word for hybrid: unsustainable. And anyone who thinks hybrid is in elementary is not more work has never done it. Canvas for Focused, they don't work well together. What we were told for grading is not true. My weekends are non-existent. So many things were promised and not purchased. When I walk away from the camera to assist and help my in-person learners, digital kids are off task and not learning. Otherwise, I'm stuck in one place and I can't move to monitor. Giving up most nights and weekends, we are being taken advantage of with the argument that it's up to us to keep parents from switching to brick and mortar just adds more pressure. Decisions should be made based on safety. We are all working to our max and cannot do more. Of 17 students, only 3 families showed up for a Zoom open house. They couldn't Zoom in for 30 minutes from anywhere. I felt disrespectful, and I left work at 7 p.m. feeling angry. I know this is true for multiple teachers at my school. I offer that Leon teachers and staff have stepped up, stood by, and continue to teach in remarkable ways, even with our own life dramas and fears to deal with. Thinking about the second 9 weeks and how many will return if we are in a place to allow it, and and whether it is safe or not is a constant and daunting concern. We need uninterrupted, student-free, multiple days to prepare for this shift. There is a critical number of safety in each classroom and each unique classroom, and it will be like starting the school year all over again. Schedules need to be recalculated, class sizes need to be locked in, furniture has to come out of storage, materials collected. We need assurances and a clear plan, and time, like at the beginning of the school year, to do things right and safely. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker, Jakari Wilcoxon. Please come, give us your full name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Good evening. Jakari Wilcoxon, 140 North Charles Willis Drive. First off, I would like to thank all of you guys for you guys' service. And I come to speak to you guys as a teacher. As a teacher personally, I am struggling. As a teacher collectively, we are struggling. The hybrid model that you guys are asking us to perform is ineffective. It's hard. Now, and I'm not one to shy away from hard work, but how long do you do something that you know is ineffective? I'm an ESE teacher. I have 30 students. 19 are digital. Now, that's 19 students, all on different academic levels. I can't assign assignments because none of the assignments work, because the computers they was given do not have Adobe, do not have Flash. And I'm still struggling. And I still have to walk in with a smile. And I still have to hear all of the cheers that as a district, we did wonderful, we did great, from people that do not have to live that, do not have to receive the phone calls from parents. I have students that I have to give hand-over-hand assistance. Do you guys know what that means? That means there's no 6 feet. My hand on his hand, and he's nonverbal. And 10 times a day, he takes off his mask. But guess what? I'm there. So now will you help us out? Because we stepped up and we helped you. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. The next speaker is Kim Strelo. Please come, give us your full name and address for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Kim Strelo, 206 Fairway Drive. Good evening, Madam Chair, school board members, and Superintendent Hannah. I first want to say thank you to Mr. Hannah and Ms. Strickland for coming into my classroom and observing the challenges that teachers are facing. I also want you to know that the 10 minutes you spent in my classroom does not capture what real difficulties I as a teacher am having teaching hybrid. I adore my students. I'm an excellent teacher who gives grace during this challenging time to my students. I do not need a pat on the back or a thank you from you all. I, along with other teachers, do need more time planning. We do need more time doing grades, calling missing students, talking to parents about technology, fixing computers, creating lesson plans, creating lessons, creating bell ringers, and warm-ups. We need more hours in a day, more days to plan. Another week of training, if possible. I am not alone feeling inadequate as a teacher because I want the best for my students. I am not alone in wanting students to have fun while learning. We miss their laughter, which is now replaced with tears of frustration. We miss knowing that our all is our all. We miss our weekends since we now spend them trying to create lessons over that don't work because of a small click. We miss the teachers laughing and enjoying what we do. We need help with our online learners who struggle and their parents who struggle with technology. We need help with our in-class learners who get frustrated that their computers are not doing what it is asked. We need help and a week of learning on how to use the Chromebooks. We need another week of Canvas training now that we know how to do the basics. I know teachers are overwhelmed and overworked. I know it's frustrating on your end that all you hear from teachers is negativity and complaints. But this is where you can help. You can give us more than one extra day to plan. You can give us help in our classrooms through digital volunteers. You can give us time to learn Chromebooks. You can give us a solid plan of a transition into the next 9 weeks. You can tell parents to keep their kids at home until it's safe. You can encourage them to hang in there until we get the Chromebooks out and distributed. You can let them know it is not normal school, and it's going to be even harder if students are on campus. You can tell the parents that with more students on campus, computers are going to be slower, and things will be more frustrating for the students. You can do this. I know you will rise to the challenge and help us out. Teachers aren't asking for much. We are not Henny the Penny, Chicken Little, okay, with hysteria, but danger is imminent. Please do not be demeaning by describing the situation as the sky is not falling.
Time. And the last speaker, Scott Mazer. Please come give us your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Scott Mazer, 3319 Dartmoor Drive, Tallahassee, Florida. Taking my time today to speak because as I listen to the teachers, I receive emails, text, things that are going on. The question really comes down, are the teachers being listened to? I know that we can visit school sites, and we can have these glimpses of opportunities to have with folks, but the reality is this. I just went through the school board docs for 2017, 18, 19, and 20 to take a look at what the personnel actions looked like for August and September. September is double. It's just equal to what August is as well, which means we have more people on leave, we have more resignations that are happening, and we hear about them on a daily basis where people are leaving. Great teachers. These are great teachers that do their job. They go above and beyond. They're sacrificing not just mentally, physically, but emotionally through this entire process. And what I'd like to say to you, Superintendent, is this. You are listening when it comes to communication, but the day before or before it comes to here, I think still is a little bit overwhelming for people, especially after a long day at work. The other issue is an additional day of PD is not what teachers are asking for right now. They need 12 extra hours in a day. They're spending 2 to 6 hours a day over what they already do for the 7.5, and then they're using their weekends to build these things. And for example, when they go to the classroom, it may work for one period, but it doesn't work for the next period. These are just some of the realities. And when the pressures come not just from their expectations, but they also come from parents and students that they see that are frustrated, that is what is the overwhelming piece, and people are becoming numb. It's just overwhelming. So with that in mind, you were given some suggestions, some things that can be done, but we're also transitioning and giving choices to people to come back into our schools where right now teachers in some cases are being told to use their teacher lead money to buy supplies to go ahead and clean their classrooms. We're working with you on those things. We are. But the consistency of the implementation is what we're asking for. It's not a choice when it comes to the school site necessarily all the time when it deals with health and safety and creating an environment that allows every teacher to be able to manage what's going on. So what we're asking is, can we have the conversation? Because we've been asking to sit down to have that conversation, and I think we can come up with some real solutions for folks. But if we are having to do it here,
Time.
it's a little less effective.
Thank you for your comments. Madam Chair, that is it for public speakers.
Okay, thank you. We are going to continue this conversation in just a minute when we talk about the reopening of schools. So I don't want you to think that your comments are falling on deaf ears and that you weren't heard. But out of respect for our friends from the Chamber of Commerce, we're going to take up their item next, and then we'll come back to the reopening conversation. So that takes us to item 6.04, world-class schools. Ms. Dick, thank you for being with us, all of you. Appreciate your support always.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to all the school board members, superintendent, and to every Leon County School employee, teacher. From the Chamber of Commerce, I'm just going to make just a couple of comments and then have Corey Melton come forward and Laura Rogers. We're going to be very sensitive to time, but we might go into in between a 3 and a 6 if that's okay. Again, thank you. As a parent, I thank you. As a representative of the Greater Tallahassee Chamber of Commerce and all of the businesses who have children in our school system, thank you very much. We have a partnership with our school system through World Class Schools. We want to support you in every way possible. This evening, we're going to highlight a program that we're working on, but also give you a brief report with Laura Rogers through our World Class Schools program. So thank you for your leadership and your time. And I'll ask Corey Melton, Vice President at the Chamber of Commerce, to come forward and talk about a partnership and an initiative that we've launched in the side of talent. Because, again, it's about making sure that every student in our community has an opportunity for a pathway, for a career and a job as they move through our system. So with that, I'll turn it over to Corey Melton to highlight something that we're working on with many stakeholders in the community. Thank you very much.
Good evening, and thank you again for letting us be here. My name is Corey Melton. I am Vice President of Membership and Talent Development at the Chamber of Commerce. And today I want to share with you a little bit about our Talent 2030 initiative that we launched August 20th. This is in response to a great need from each one of our members who indicate that talent is their number one challenge, regardless of industry. So we brought this forward, and if you'll move on to the next slide, I just want to walk you through a little bit of it. First of all, why 2030? We have aligned our 2030 with the Florida Chamber's Workforce 2030 program, and we know that by 2030, excuse me, my mask keeps falling down. By 2030, our state is going to need 1.5 million more jobs. In our region, 18,500 jobs. And also, as I was thinking about this presentation this morning, it occurred to me, the third graders that we talk about the importance of their reading scores, 2030 is their graduation year. It is not that far off. So we are looking ahead to 2030 and what we can do to not only reduce the gap in skills that now exist, but so that we can bring up all of our students so that there's prosperity for all. Next slide. So with our Talent 2030, we have a number of partners, as Sue mentioned, TCC, Lively, of course, Leon County Schools, Office of Economic Vitality. Many of you are familiar with Aspire, which is a program that we are part chair of that as well. World Class Schools and our own Access Tallahassee at the Chamber. So we really are bringing the stakeholders together to work on this because we know that it's going to take all of us. And in that 2030, Talent 2030, we have 3 programs that we are looking at. One of them is Talent Pipeline Management. This is a program where we work directly with our industries, where we use the principles of supply chain management, bringing them together to look at what as an industry, what are their top needs, and just focusing on that so that we can help with our education partners design talent pipelines specific to those jobs, knowing that at the end of those jobs, the best part of it, that there are local jobs here, at the end of the pipeline, there are local jobs here for those students. So we have just launched that program 3 weeks ago. We're starting in technology. The next sector will be healthcare. The second program that we're looking at is Talent Hub, which you see here on the screen now. This is a platform, a software platform that was purchased thanks to our friends at OEV and their Leon Cares grant funding. But it's really a platform that we have purchased for the community. And what this platform brings to the community is a way to tie in all of the talent and workforce partners. So it brings in our teachers. There are lesson plans in there. There are courses their students can take with career and technical ed. There is career discovery built into it as well. It brings in employers because it is a place where they can post jobs and track applicants and look at the talent that's available. It brings in our agencies because those provide a lot of wraparound services that we know these students need. A lot of times it's not the desire to work that's missing, it's all of the other components that really are obstacles for them. So this gives our agencies a way to wrap into it as well. So we have brought the platform, we launched it in August. If you'll move on to the next one, are we ready to play the video? Here's a real quick video, we'll cross our fingers, to give you a look at Talent Hub. Thank you. And hopefully that will give you a quick glimpse into what the possibilities are for our job seekers. The mobile portion of this will be released hopefully in October. Our goals for this program real quickly, and then I'll move on to Laura. Our first goal is to get 500 employers on the system because we know that when job seekers go to the system, they want to see jobs available there. Our second, you can leave it there on Ajax. But our second goal, and the one that I hope that you will consider, is the approval of letting us integrate with your class link. So the students have single sign-on through the teachers and the parents. The integration is there. It is a subscription, but it is something that does need to be approved by the district, and then it will be open to all of our students. And by the way, all of this is free to all students, to all employers. It's free across the board because of the, as I said, the generous grant from OEV. I do want to highlight real quick, and then I'll turn it over, a project where one of our members really saw how all of this can work together, and he's pulling it together in action. Jay Smith, who is our chair-elect for the chamber and vice president at Ajax Construction, was already working on a project where they are building the new City of Tallahassee Police Headquarters at the Northwood Center. One of the things they are going to be doing is asking all of their subcontractors to hire 10% disadvantaged workers and 10% apprentice or externship type programs. And the whole goal of this is that at the end of the 2 to 3 years that it will take to build this project, that people who may not have had another chance are going to come out with good work experience, possibly earning their GED, earning some credentials so that they can continue on in this industry and have a good pathway to a job that will be paying them living wage. And the way this all comes together, Talent Hub is not the piece that's going to do all of the work, but it does give us a platform to pull all of those people together so that we can see the students coming in, the job seekers, we can have the agencies providing the wraparound services, the employers can look and see who they can hire, and of course the job seekers can find jobs. So be on the lookout for this because it's going to be a great way to just show what we are able to do with this, but it's a gift for all of us, so please embrace it, and we'll look forward to talking to you more about hopefully getting the approval so that we can move forward with the schools. And we'll be here for questions later, and now I'll turn it over to Laura.
I can see Shelley Bell smiling even with her mask on at this opportunity. That's very exciting.
Just in the interest of time, and I hope that you can see through our eyes that we are smiling. We are very thankful for the hard work that y'all have done throughout the summer to continue the year and the education for our children. So I'm going to hold off on the PDF that you worked so hard in getting put up there, but it is available via the board documents of the different programs and activities World Class Schools has been involved in with the school district and the chamber. Just a couple of things that are happening very soon that I think are worth mentioning is the reoccurring program that is actually happening this Thursday, which is the Children's Summit. And Superintendent Hannah is one of the speakers that will be addressing early learning and different programs in the community, and also in helping with our children and addressing 304 areas. But the registration is available free for anyone in the community. It's going to be via Zoom, and it's on the Whole Child Leon website for the free registration, and that's this Thursday. World Class Schools is also continuing on our mentorship with the Title I school in Pineview. I'm going to be a homeroom mom again. So I'm looking forward to working with them and helping the students in a new format. CHP Champions, starting in the schools. Best and Brightest Scholarship Awards will continue in offering the scholarships for the students and recognition for the 8th grade essays, and also additional talent development programs. So thank you all very much for having us with the Chamber involved and anything that we can do to help assist in the future of our learning environments. We are there to help and also provide those talent developments so we can have our young people prepared and ready to work in this new world. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rogers. All of you from the Chamber, we're grateful for your partnership, your leadership, and it's good to have your think tank in addition to the resources that you bring to the table. So we're grateful for that. Thank you very much.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Jones.
Before the members of the chamber leave, I know that Ms. Shelley Bell is an intrinsic part of what we'll be doing with Talent Hub and how we'll be facilitating its usage. Since we have her here, I would love it if she would come and talk about what she knows to be the linkages between Talent Hub, possibly, and our Lively Vocational Technical College.
Not to get put on the spot there, Ms. Bell.
Thank you. Yeah, we're excited at Lively with Talent Hub because we see that this is the first time that as a community we are rallying around making sure that we have pathways available, not just for our students, but for everyone in the community, where we can come together with the agencies, Career Source, our employers, even Leon County Schools can be on there to show the jobs that we have within our school system, but showing students the pathway from middle school, high school, the opportunities that exist in our own backyard. And at Lively, we're excited because one of the things that we see not happening as much as we would like, and I have kids in the school system, so I see it sometimes too, is that we take for granted that they know what the industries are right here in Tallahassee. We take for granted that they know what Danfoss does, or what city government, what state government does, who our large employers are. They know the university system, and they hear that all the time, but we want students to come out knowing what are the healthcare needs in Tallahassee, what are the building trades needs, and what are those pathways and programs that they can start in the middle school and the high school, and then continuing on, whether it's at Lively or TCC or FSU or FAMU or Flagler, to get the skills that they need to do those jobs. And so we're excited because this is the first time it's bringing together the community as a whole to look at how we can make sure that there are pathways for everyone when it comes to finding employment and gainful jobs that they like. And so this pipeline that we can start with us all on the same page. And, I thank the Chamber, OEV, for really getting behind this, and we're excited to get it in the hands of our students. We've already pushed it out to the Lively students so that they can start building their profiles and looking for jobs and looking at the training that exists within the system, from resume writing to looking at different videos that exist in the system. And so we just see it as something that can be an asset, not just for our Lively Lively students, not just for the students in the K-12 system, but for our parents as well.
Exactly.
And so we're excited. I hope that our teachers and our students and our parents find it as useful as what we have found it. So we're excited to be part of this process with the Chamber.
Madam Chair and colleagues, when we talked just a few weeks ago about creating a cradle to careers, a pathway for our young people, when you listen to what Ms. Melton described with our $65 million police station that will go up in our community, with positions dedicated for externships, imagine then any one of our students who are dually enrolled in high school, there will be options and opportunities made available to them through externships and apprenticeships that when they graduate, they'll graduate not only with a diploma, but will have had the certification hours required in their respective industries that they then also graduate with careers. And we know that the way you end poverty is with a job. And so here now that this opportunity for us to work in tandem together with our resource and workforce development, Lively Vocational Technical College, the inroads that they will make at all of our respective high schools and middle schools, we will now be able to be to reinforce our position in being a job creator that remedies cyclical poverty. And this platform is going to be critical to ensuring that that occurs. So I'm just grateful that they've come to share this information with us. I'm grateful to have Ms. Bell here to talk about what that synergy and that type of collaboration, that mutually symbiotic relationship is going to mean to our students ultimately in terms of helping them to start careers. So thank you.
Thank you. Well said, Mr. Jones. Thank you very much. Thank you for taking the time to come all the way out here, too. We appreciate that.
We appreciate you.
All right, so that takes us back to the conversation regarding the reopening of, well, I guess reopening, the 9-week transition reopening of schools.
The second reopening?
I guess.
We are. All right, so first I'm gonna bring Dr. Cox in just a minute, but before I do, I just want to say thank you to members of the board for the executive session yesterday. I brought to you all the idea of releasing the line item we had for teacher salary increases, that $4 million line item, and you agreed, and that will move forward tomorrow as they begin negotiations with the teachers union, and I just want to say thank you. What they have said here at this podium has not fallen on deaf ears, and we could never pay our teachers enough, but I think we are in a position now with this $9 million to move the needle in the right direction, starting at the bottom and moving up. And I look forward to those negotiations tomorrow. And also in those discussions will be, I'm sure, the hybrid model, how kids return, and some of the other working conditions and things that they've struggled with over the course of the last 3 weeks. I know they're going to be putting together work groups to listen to some of these concerns and some of the issues that were brought before you tonight. And I look forward to getting some of that feedback and for us trying to do everything we can humanly possible to make the lives of our teachers easier in the days and the weeks to come as we continue to navigate these unprecedented times. So with that, I would like to ask Dr. Cox, if you would, to give us an update of where we are as a school district. Someone mentioned about transparency of our numbers, and I really take exception to that, quite honestly, because nothing is further from the truth. We are being as transparent as we possibly can every single day. We're releasing numbers by school, by employee, and by student. We now have a 2-week dashboard that we are monitoring, just like the Department of Health does, as recommended by the CDC. So for someone to say that we are not being transparent as a school district with this information is very disingenuous. So with that, Dr. Cox, I'll let you kind of give the board an update and answer any questions related to health and safety.
Thank you, Mr. Superintendent. So let me give some information, and I've got several little items on here to address too. Let's talk about Leon County, not the school system, but the county as a whole, or this part of the state. We have a positivity rate of 4.36. Now, that rate is actually going down every day, so we're below the 5%. And now we got a 3-day weekend coming up, but the good news is 4.3% across the board for our county, for the community as a whole. How about the school system? The total positive rate, the number of students that have tested positive since September the 1st has been 43. Total number of employees since September the 1st has been 19. We get our data every day from direct reports from the schools. We have a process that has worked great, smoothly, and has allowed us to get information as quick as we can. That information is checked. I brought Tanya Fitzgerald, former principal, on board. She is our quality control person. So I brought her on board, and she checks us with the health department data. The health department, I sit at the same table with them every day. They check it too. And this is what they do. Even before COVID was ever heard of, this is what they do. So I don't know how much more transparent, and I take exception to the remark that our data is inaccurate as well. Okay, how about quarantine? Number of students currently that are in quarantine, and I want you to understand this, is about 183. However, it's about 113 that have been quarantined from our room, from a classroom, because of a student that was in that class that was sick, symptomatic, tested positive. So the remainder, so 113 minus 183, the remainder is from the community at large. These and it's all over the map. And when I look at that huge database that the health department has and the little comment section, it's household protocols, it's an older sibling, it's back at home and they're sick, some in the family sick, they got it on a trip. It's all over the map. We have 406 total, less than 2% of our brick and mortar students that have been in some kind of quarantine, and that includes the ones that tested positive as well. So that's our quarantine students. I want to talk about the quarantine. One reason that it is tough to keep that exactly 100% accurate, it changes on an hourly basis. Okay? We have a lot of the quarantine students at the end of their name, it says TBD, to be determined, because they're in a household protocol, about a third of them. Household protocols, when somebody in the family is tested positive and the student cannot come back until the last person is released, 14 days after the last person is released. So to explain how tough that is to keep up with the quarantine piece, and our focus is definitely the positive ones, but the quarantine piece is that, and like we've had in our own school system, the dad is sick. Oh, then lo and behold, a week later, the mother gets sick. And then another sibling gets sick. And so you can see why why the Department of Health puts in there to be determined, because we have to wait and see 14 days after the last person is released by the Department of Health. Let's see what else we got on here. So everybody remembers our COVID response team. And those members were the superintendent, Ryan Smith, chief medical officer at Tallahassee Memorial Hospital, Trey Blake, chief clinical medical officer at Community Capital Circle Hospital over there, Holly Kirsch, number 2 at Department of Health, and Coco McClellan, who is in charge of school health, and myself. So we activated that group this week on 2 occasions, and I want to tell you about that. The first one was W.T. Moore. So W.T. Moore, we had a parent who was sick. The student was in our school and started feeling bad about midweek, got tested, and the student, young child, tested positive. And actually it was 2 siblings, one in kindergarten, one in pre-K. So I activated the COVID response team. I talked to them in our contact tracing. I think we have down pretty well. They determined that they cannot guarantee that the 7 other students in the pre-K and the 7 other students in the kindergarten class always stayed outside of the 15 minutes, 6 feet. So when we brought that to the COVID response team, and when it was brought to me from the Department of Health and the superintendent, we said it'd probably be better if we quarantine those students. They are young. And that one class, they could not guarantee the social distancing. The second activation of the COVID response team, which is a wonderful group of people, by the way, was for Childs High School. So Childs It is our largest school that we have in the district. It started with almost 1,400 students that came back brick and mortar, so it had the largest percent of students that came back brick and mortar. And since September the 1st, we've had 17 total students and 2 staff members. We're all very aware that we had staff members and that we had students back during the summer. Some pretty high profile situations there, but we started tracking this and keeping the data daily, every day since the 1st, and giving it to Mr. Petley to put on the dashboard and to the Department of Education. We do that every day as well for the transparency piece of it. So here's some of my conversation that I had with like Ryan Smith and Trey Blake from the 2 hospitals. This is Ryan. He says you have to look at the success rate of how many were exposed to a case, a known case, and that have gone on to test positive. He said those are one of the determinations that we need to look at if we're going to close a classroom or a school. So I did. And so when you look at the students that were quarantined because they were within the 6 feet for more than 15 minutes, 0. None of them, none within the day have reported back testing positive or getting sick. Now let that sink in, okay? So our rules, so our process, the plans that we put in place have really done pretty well. If we cannot get the 6 feet, students wear a mask. And at this time, we don't have a quarantined case from a school exposure that has come back sick or with or testing positive. So that was one of his things that we need to look at. He said wanted me to mention tonight to tell our children to wear masks in all social settings. Article in the paper yesterday, and I put it, I can't shout this anymore, is parents, if you test your students, do not send them to school, please. Don't send them to school in hopes that it's negative, because that's kind of burning us in a few places, okay? Because lo and behold, they're showing up positive. Some of them symptomatic, some of them not. 3 days later, and then we have to quarantine a bunch of students. But also, our students are in the community out there. We really need our students to adhere to the mask. Y'all have done great. School's been unbelievably great in the way everybody's worn them. Really, the mask has not been an issue. I know we spent hours on it, haven't, but we really need to do that in all social settings. Let's see, what else did Ryan and Trey say? We have no current within the school outbreaks. Now, we've had some outbreaks on athletic teams, some from the summer, some recently here, but not within the day of the school of where students were getting sick. Both of them recommended that we keep the same process going. So in regards to Childs High School, because they've had 17, so that's, remember the 3 letters, so that's 17 letters that have gone out to the community, but they've all been kind of isolated events. They've all been different from each other. That first batch of students earlier in the year that we quarantined, all of them have come back, 9 of them were sick. So our process is making a difference. So we had further conversation with the COVID response team into what do we mean when we say an outbreak? Let's define that. So once again, I'm still getting asked questions about, when would you close the school? Well, it's 2 or more positive confirmed cases from the same cohort. So 2 or more positive. So cohort is a class, a work group, could be an athletic team. It's all, we've been cohorting our students. But if we find that they are getting infected by each other, then that's another issue, and we will have to readdress it. I'm going to continue on. I've got a little bit more here, and then we can go questions and talk about reopening. All right. So what have we done? We know that here at the we know that the 2nd November that we're going to allow students who would like to come back to bricks and mortar come back. I think a lot of our parent community has seen that we've been pretty successful in being safe in school. I'm going to tell you it's probably one of the safer places to be. And so we've got to get ready for that. So Leon County Department of Health, who we have a good relationship with, they have hired, I think, 8 to 10 other folks to help with their contact tracing in preparation so that if we have higher numbers. Hopefully we won't, but we're going to prepare. We're going to prepare for that. So Coco McClellan over there has hired several other people. They're in the process of training them now in the contact tracing, because remember, they were adamant that they do that, and I think they've been very efficient. My department, so I have brought on another member. I brought Tanya Fitzgerald. She is our coordinator for mental health, previous principal of Cobb, and she's helping us now. She's helping as quality control with the quarantine data, making sure that information gets back to the school about when students are released and when they can come back. And I have another social worker in waiting right now as well. Google texting. Let me talk about Google texting. I want to thank Joe Burgess at Childs High School, and Joe's had a lot of practice, so this was a great recommendation on his part. When we have a student that tests positive, then that is immediately jettisoned to the Department of Health, where they do the contact tracing. They look at seating charts, they talk to teachers, they talk to administrators at the school, and of course parents. But sometimes, by law, they have 24 hours. We're trying to get back to the parents of a student that may be exposed that day. That's our goal. We don't want them coming to school the next morning. So here's how we protect that. We give the schools that list right away. Here's the 8 students. If they show up and you turn them right around, at this point, we've been able to get back with everybody on the same day. But some of these come in at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock at night. Some of them come in at 9 o'clock. They come in Sunday mornings, Saturday mornings. So we cannot. So when people see a strange number, they won't answer the call. Also, we don't call after 10 o'clock. So we've gone in to use Google Text from Focus that sends a text message telling the parents their situation, and that the Department of Health will be reaching out to them real quick. And so that kind of helps alleviate some of those fears. Because, when they get just a quick call or notification that their child was exposed, they have questions. So that helps us if it's a late contact, Friday afternoon late. Leon County Department of Health notifying exposures in hours. They legally have 24 hours to do that. I've talked about that. And during the interview, when they're doing their contact tracing and they're doing their deep dive interview of the person that's positive, these individuals and the quarantine people, when they're talking to the quarantine people, they are told from the Department of Health to report to the investigator. They're given their phone number if they have questions, or if they start to develop symptoms, or if they test positive. So the folks that are put into quarantine are given information, they're given a number to call, and also to report back if they become symptomatic or if they test positive. And that's why, in our collaboration with them, we haven't had any of that. For the most part, the students that we have put in quarantine within the day have been helpful. Mr. Superintendent, that's my report of what's been going on the last week or so.
Yeah, and we'll take questions in just a second. We're facing all different types of scenarios. One, we had a parent at the house that tested positive but sent their child to school anyway, and then that child tested positive and we had to quarantine them. We had another situation with an after-school program at a local church where kids from 2 different elementary schools were on the church bus, and one of those kids tested positive. Would you say, Alan, the vast majority of these have been off-campus incidents that we've reacted to on campus?
Yes, that is, and the data shows that. So out of the 43 students, Chris Petley brought this up. It was a very good point. As of today, 3 weeks into the school year, we know these 43 cases, and they're community infections. A couple of athletic situations, but most of them have come from household protocols, a member of the family, something in the community. And that's why I keep saying everything's pointing to the schools are actually pretty safe because of what we put in place. Hope we can keep that going.
Madam Chair, Mr. Superintendent, Dr. Cox, this still gives me pause. We have articulated most clearly that density is the solution to ensure that we do not have an increase in numbers. So if we talk about our numbers being 43 and that those incidences were household incidents or household circumstances, if we now change our plan, which I believe our original plan was that we would look at the return of all students after November, or after the first semester and not the first 9 weeks. If we now follow the example as we see from our larger institutions like Florida State, where they are not managing density and now are seeing far frequent occurrences, it would appear to me that we put ourselves at risk to do the same. And I don't know if we have talked with our teachers and our principals, not told them, but talked with them to find out what their concerns are about the return of our students, but it just doesn't make good sense to me. If we are bragging about our numbers, if we now then change the composition of our current classrooms, do we then put ourselves at greater risk? And it would appear to me that we would, unless there are some scientists beyond Dr. Cox who could convince me otherwise. I don't know that that is in our best interest.
So to your point, Mr. Jones, Ms. Wood raised this question yesterday during our agenda review, and I know you were trying to juggle several different things, and we had some input from our legal counsel as to what our requirements were by the order of the commissioner and the governor. Initially, you're correct in saying that we were going to go semester by semester. Other districts, however, like-sized districts, were moving to 9 weeks. We were starting to get questions. Well, if other districts, Bay County, Alachua County, Escambia County, Okaloosa, could do 9 weeks, why couldn't Leon County Schools be able to adjust it to 9-week intervals? After talking with Ms. McKinney-Williams, I thought that was in our best interest, given that the order specifically says that all schools will open brick and mortar by August for any and all students who want to return. So that's why the decision was then made to move to a 9-week period, to then open the window up again on next Tuesday, September 29th, for a 10-day period, and to shut the window on October the 9th for parents again to decide what's in the best interest of their child and their family moving forward for the second 9 weeks of the school year. I don't know if Ms. McKinney-Williams wants to weigh in again on some of the advice she gave to Ms. Wood, but Ms. Wood raised a similar concern.
Well, this is a great time for us to talk about it. Yesterday was in an agenda review. We are now before our public, our parents, our teachers, and every single stakeholder who will be affected by this decision. So if anything that was shared yesterday with us in the sunshine with the agenda review with a far less public, we might want to consider sharing that information again.
I'm going to recognize Ms. McKinney-Williams to read in part from the order and then talk about legally defensible positions.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As we discussed yesterday, I believe I started off with just talking about the concept of public education in the state of Florida in the Constitution and in state law. It talks about public education, and it is an avenue that is open for all. The doors of our public schools are always open. However, we are dealing with a pandemic, such as COVID. So how does the pandemic impact that? Well, our Commissioner of Education, under the authority given to him by the governor, has issued back on August 6th, I believe it was, an emergency order. And in that order, he makes very clear that our public schools need to have a brick and mortar option. Starting in August, all school boards and charter school governing boards must open brick and mortar schools at least 5 days per week for all students. That's in sub 1A. Sub 1B, under in this emergency order that talks about a full panoply of services, it says school districts and charter school governing boards must provide the full array of services that are required by law so that families who wish to educate their children in a brick and mortar school full-time have the opportunity to do so. So I believe a lot of, to the superintendent's point, that several school districts across the state, lots of school districts across the state have been trying to figure out how to do that and still maintain some form of continuity and structure. And so they opened a window at the beginning of the first 9 weeks, and there's a plan to open the window again for the start of the second 9 weeks. There have been a lot of discussions about, or thoughts given to just keeping the doors closed and not authorizing or not allowing students to attend brick and mortar. I don't know that that we are that decision would be legally defensible. Right now, we know that this emergency order is the subject of ongoing litigation. That litigation is currently in our appellate court here in Tallahassee, the First District Court of Appeal. And during the pendency of that litigation, the automatic stay has been instituted. And so what that means is that the order, which was in effect at the time the litigation started, is what is in effect. And so we have to operate in accordance with this order until we get some disposition of those cases in the first DCA. And we are not yet close to that. It's still pending, and I have not seen yet a hearing on that matter. So that is where we are with regard to the brick and mortar option for students.
This will be my last point, and this is what I need clarified. I understand, and we provided that option at the very beginning. We communicated to our families about density. We also communicated that we were going to look at this on a semester basis. So we've already met, and you clarified this for me, Ms. McKinney-Williams, we've already met the intent of the order when we provided parents that option. At what point then is there anything that forces our hands to reconsider what we had communicated to our public and parents about reviewing this on a semester basis rather than a 9 weeks basis?
I think Mr. James, I think you're mistaken. We said in our reopening plan it would be at the end of the first 9 weeks. We initially thought it may be a semester during the summer, but by the time the task force finished and I brought forward a reopening plan, it was each 9 weeks.
All right.
And we felt like after council, discussing with council, that the state would not fight us on that, but they may fight us if we went for an entire semester.
I said this would be my last question a question ago, but this will be my last question. Have we had been in any dialogue with our teachers and principals prior to our making that decision to find out what they, as I guess for lack of a better word, as boots on the ground, the persons who are most directly engaged with parents, students, with our parents and our student population, our principals engaged with our teacher population? Have we discussed what this reopening would look like prior to our having made a decision that we would reopen our doors?
I'm not sure I understand the question, but I would say I think all of our school administrators and people that were paying attention to these discussions were well aware that at the end of the first 9 weeks, that window was going to reopen for students who may want to return.
If I might chime in just a minute.
Ms. Strickland?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think we all feel your frustration, and we talked at great length yesterday about we see our teachers' frustration, and we see that it's taken them 3 weeks to even have some sense of normalcy in their own classroom and kind of get their bearings of how do I do this. And teachers are making modifications. They're sharing with other teachers. They've made changes and adjustments, and it's not perfect. It's far from that. But there are certain things, just like opening brick and mortar, that we have been directed to do, and it's not so much our choice. And I think that's what we're facing here. But what we did discuss yesterday also was what can we do to help? What can we do to make this better? What are the things that are options for us? Things like IT support, huge. That was at the top of my list of bullets yesterday was IT support, and superintendent answered that. He had a great thought on that yesterday. An extra day for them to not for specifically training, just time for them to plan, because they are experiencing the difficulty of having to plan multiple, I don't even call them lesson plans, but they're guiding an online curriculum as well as an in-person curriculum at the same time, some of them. So it's extra time for them. There was a couple other things. I think the IT support. What was it? There was one more thing yesterday that we...
Was it substitute teachers?
It wasn't substitute, but I think it was the IT para. There was an IT. There were several things, and now I can't.
Well, one thing we talked a couple of things. One was additional resources at the school to try to compensate teachers, helping teachers, teachers teaching teachers, and those will be some conversations to be had tomorrow and the days to come, because we have a lot of teachers that I visited that are grasping things and have made adjustments that can be shared or should be shared with their colleagues. And we want to be able to infuse them into the class. And a lot of them are doing it already. They're doing it already, and they're just not being compensated, right? So we want to have that conversation with LCTA about compensating those other teachers that are ahead, let's say, of the game when it comes to navigating Canvas, navigating the challenges that come to deal with the hybrid class. In addition to that, we talked about the additional planning day of offering November the 2nd as a second planning day at the end of the 9 weeks, that then teachers, we could find out from these workshops or from this conversation with LCTA, what do we need in the areas of in-service on November the 2nd, or we flip it, we do the in-service on the 30th, and then they can do grading on the 2nd, or however they figure it out. But that's then another day for teachers to prepare for the second 9 weeks of the school year. Going further than that, as well as I do, we're then pushing into the summer. We're now then talking about 174-day school year, and we're about at the end. So now, if we do have heaven forbid, something lines up and doesn't keep going west of here, that we're going to be pushing further into the month of June. Or to Ms. Rasmussen's point, looking at spring break, potentially. I see where Florida State is talking about doing something different with spring break this year, or looking at winter break. But again, we're moving on the run. We feel like, and you guys felt like I did, it was important to give teachers that second day. Could they use another whole week? Yeah. Okay, I get it. Just like with the 2 weeks at the beginning of the school year. But a day is better than no day, and we can then work to try to see what do they need moving into the second 9 weeks of the school year, and then provide trainings with those other individuals at the school level, instead of waiting for 2 people from the district to go around to each school, to provide that training immediately, and not waiting until the end of October, starting that now, and it's been ongoing. All right.
Superintendent.
Ms. Wood.
I'm glad we're having this discussion. I think all of us are really feeling the pain, not as much as the teachers are, but this is hard. This is really something we've asked them to step up, and they have, and they are every day. And we've all observed it going to the schools. And so the first thing is, of course, to say thank you, and thank you. All of us agree with that. I do think that we need to be clear that the Constitution also says that we need to have a safe environment at school, and I think that everyone has done a great job of that, and I think the numbers show that. But if it's Katie bar the door and everybody comes back, we will no longer have that. So I think we need to keep messaging to the parents that if they can keep their child home, and we know all of them want their kids to go back to school, and the kids want to go back to school. Mm-hmm. But the safest option is still, if you can, to stay at home. It's not only safe for their family, but it makes it safer for the employees and the teachers at the schools. So I don't think this should be an encouraging window. This should be a window of, is this a high need in your family? And there are some families who do need this.
And it's just not working for them, yeah.
Just not working for them. But if it's working, I would say at a modicum, please. The teachers are very nervous about suddenly losing the social distance we've established, suddenly losing the things that they spent so much time just getting their classroom set up, to have to redo everything. It's going to be very disruptive. I think that we need to give schools, principals, and teachers the message that, of course, they need to work this out, but we need to give parents and students the message that just because they're coming back to school doesn't mean they're going to have their same schedule. Or it may not mean that they are with that teacher in that room if there's not room for that student. They may be in the cafeteria on their digital platform getting instructed at school. I mean, I think we need to have all those options open for the schools and for the teachers to figure this out. Because what we don't want is to have one extra student come into a class that suddenly completely changes the dynamic and the space and everything. So we need to come up with some creative ways to meet the needs of these children who need to come back. But I think we need to stress that word need and not just want.
I agree. And I think to your point, that's why I felt like if we shut the window on October the 9th, it then gave administrators 3 weeks to do just that. And for parents to know that there will be, a lot of them will be changing teachers, they'll be shifting around. We're going to level classes, but it gives the principals, and we had that conversation with them over the last several days, that gives them that 3-week window to make those adjustments, and also then working with their teachers. Now, we've been in this model. We may need to shift to co-teaching model. We may need to do this. So yes, but it gives us some time to plan for the second 9 weeks. But to your point, if it's working and things are fine, then yes, by all means, let's keep it the way it is.
Since the announcement that was made today, my phone is rung off the hook. Because as teachers are now making the adjustments here now in our 3rd to 4th week, they are now looking at what they know will be the inevitable at the end of the 9 weeks. And that is why I asked the question, are we talking to the persons who are most directly impacted? What are they telling us? That perhaps when we talk about this reopening, maybe it needs to be measured based upon classrooms and the faculty who will teach in those classrooms and their availability, how they may feel about the reopening of their particular class, right? The teacher who can manage it, and the number of persons or spaces that I don't know, but I do know that they need to be talked to, because right now it seems as if I'll give you a perfect example. At the Springwood Elementary School, with Sylvia Myers, yes. Her teachers are now training other teachers through workshops and collaborations. In fact, she's working with other Title I schools to include my own Bond Elementary. Mm-hmm. So here now they're making that adjustment. And so now people are coming to a different level of ease and comfort. Here now we will find ourselves, and I have not heard that there's from that school specifically any displeasure, but I am hearing from individual teachers about the concerns they have about the onboarding of more students. So I just hope that in the weeks that ensue before we finalize that reopening, that we're in strong communication with our faculty, because there's a great deal of concern. They too read the tea leaves. They read headlines. We read about what's happening at other schools, at Florida State University, and it gives people pause. And here now, when I personally have done my part in my district to continue to make the argument about driving down density, ensuring safety. If we now upturn that logic to now let more children come in, I wonder, will we be able to sustain the same type of rates and percentages that we've just now highlighted in Dr. Cox's earlier presentation? And I don't know that we would, because that what has been key to us, social distancing, will now no longer be a consideration. And that gives me pause.
Madam Chair.
Ms. Bowen.
I agree that the safety of these children, our children, continues to be very important. But I also think that our continuing to be transparent and current in providing information about where we are as soon as we can, I think that goes a long way as well. And I am not suggesting that we have not been, but we seem to be still getting the questions about what we're really going to do and how we're going to do that. So I just need to add that to the mix for consideration as we continue to think about what we're going to do. There seems to be a cry for what's happening and how will we get it done, and who's going to provide me some additional help, or is somebody going to do that? Is that part of the plan? And I agree. Our teachers are wonderful, and teaching is hard. Most jobs are hard. And we want them in these hard jobs to feel as supportive as they can be, and also to feel safe. But the concerns about the density is certainly on our minds. And we had a long discussion, as we said yesterday, about it, and it's good to have it today. So I needed to just say that, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I would just add, for the sake of transparency and government in the sunshine, to reiterate a couple things I pointed out yesterday. I'm very concerned. I don't think one day is enough.
Yeah.
I've heard from countless teachers, we need more time, we need more time. If I knew how to add hours to the day for you, I would. I don't know how to do that. I know compensation isn't always the most important thing. I hope that in the negotiations that we will find a way to give teachers the kind of additional support that they need, whether it's tech support or an aide in the classroom, or I heard somebody tonight, I think, say something about a virtual assistant even. I think we whatever we can do, they are really, many of them are struggling, especially with the hybrid model, which I do not think is sustainable, even though I applaud you for thinking of the idea, because that helped us figure out how to offer all the same kinds of courses, which probably resulted in more kids in the digital academy, especially at the high school level. So there's safety, and then there's the offset of how do I get to graduation with the courses I need to get to college or career. And so I feel like we are in a predicament in that, well, clearly the whole world is in a predicament, but we are, because in addition to the safety concerns, I really worry about our teachers who are just now sort of starting to get their sea legs under them after 3 weeks. And now in a few more weeks, all that could change radically, and it would be hugely disruptive. And yet I hear from parents who there is no way, they cannot survive the digital academy in their particular circumstances. So I agree with Ms. Wood. Let's implore our parents, where you're able to stay in the digital format, please consider doing that until Christmas. And then for those students who are sincerely struggling, or if the family situation has changed and you really, really need to go back to school, then we want to be able to provide that for you too. But I do think it has the potential to be disruptive, significantly disruptive, not to mention the safety concerns that have been raised tonight. But at the same time, once again, we find ourselves trying to thread a needle and balance the needs of families and students and teachers and administrators, and through the lens of healthcare and solid pedagogy. And I don't know that the hybrid model is good for any of that, but maybe it's better than nothing, and maybe it helped us to get to where we are. I don't pretend to have all the answers. I do want to extend empathy and concern for teachers who are overworked, and I know compensation may not, maybe it will help a little bit to help pay for those extra hours you're putting in now on the weekends, and in the long term, when we're out of this mess, hopefully sooner than later, that'll, feel like a real raise. I hope. So I just wanted to offer those additional comments. I also have a great concern about substitute teachers, because in the classrooms that I have visited where I've seen the digital teaching on Canvas, I can't imagine a substitute isn't going to be able to walk in and just take over Canvas. They're not going to even have any idea. So we've got to find a way to train, a group of substitutes. I know our teachers our principals have been creative and co-teaching and team teaching and ways to work around that. But the old days of a substitute coming in and having a packet of paper and a seating chart are no longer applicable in this virtual setting. And so, that's a whole nother wrinkle in this thing, in addition to a teacher shortage and people not really wanting to go into schools because they're afraid for their own health. So, I just think that those things probably need to be said out loud, at least to honor the very difficult circumstance that we find ourselves in.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Jones.
And I apologize that I missed yesterday's conversation, so this is all new to me. However, one of the things I think is critical with 3 to 4 weeks already in. That conversation that occurs between the district and the faculty is all the more valuable now, because now, as we talk about having empirical data and capturing data and the importance of surveys, if we were to open in 9 weeks, here now we can be duly informed, genuinely informed by the persons who are already in the throes of it. So that means so we can canvass our faculty to let them inform us, well, this is what we know has worked thus far. And if when we open, this will be based upon what we've seen thus far, because we're all new to it. There is no playbook. But here now we do have some data and perspective from what we've already done thus far, such that here now, in this environment of shared governance, for lack of a better word, here now we can be informed more accurately about what works. We've now got a set of best practices that we are now witnessing in our district, from not only just from school to school, but grade to grade, hybrid versus digital versus a mixture of the two. So here now we can use the intellect found in the district to fashion the most competent, efficient method by which we reopen. But that has to happen through substantive conversation. I think that's going to be critical, right? Because, and I don't want to in any way lessen the needs of our parents and our families. But when we opened up, we put parents first. I think that as we prepare to reopen, to widen the door, I think we need to think about putting teachers first in this model. And that's just, and again, I'm new to the conversation. I missed it yesterday, but I thought that was worth sharing.
Okay, I know Ms. Wood and Ms. Bowen, and then I would suggest maybe we would move on to the next part of this presentation, if that's okay. Okay, Ms. Bowen.
Okay. Later on in the agenda, you notice I'm going to be talking about some work that I've been doing with the Florida School Boards Association. But as I hear this discussion, now might be a good time just to enter a little bit of that report, and I'll go into the full part later when we talk about teachers and their needs. We met with some students, the Equity Committee of the Florida School Boards Association, and we brought students in to talk with us about what they felt their needs were at the very start of this school year after the reopening. We thought these students would be talking with us about equity and those kinds of issues. So the chair said, students, what do you want to talk to us about? They wanted to talk about what was happening to them in their classrooms. They felt that the teachers were not knowledgeable about Canvas. They felt that there was a failing of the IT connections. They went on to say that safety for them was the most important thing, and training, okay? These were our students, okay? Students from all over the state of Florida. And so I offer that while we're having a discussion about what's best to do, I hope that we will talk to some of our students to find out what they think and feel about what is happening. And I will share more information about that a little bit later on. But sometimes the people that we are trying to prepare the product for, how is all of this relating to them? How are they faring under all of this discussion that we're having? And these are some pretty bright kids. I'll share more, but I don't want that piece left out. We're the grown-ups, and yes, we're making the decisions, but they're the people we're trying out these things on. Either it's working or it isn't. So I'll talk more about that, but I just really need to enter it right now.
Okay, Ms. Wood.
Well, both the last two comments tie into what I've been thinking about, and that's having some sort of a district best practices site. So that people, because when I talk to people, how's your kid doing at school? The parent or the student will immediately say, well, this teacher is really doing it the way I can understand it. And they'll give an example. They're teaching for 30 minutes the digital students and letting the in-class students do their work, and then they flip-flop. There's, different things are working really well. And my experience is sometimes we don't share across schools as much as we should. Or, it's just hard to because you're busy doing stuff. I think if we had some kind of a district catch-all where parents, students, teachers could say, this is really working. Because we've all observed teachers who really are figuring this out and, seem to be handling it. But it's hard. That's not to say anyone's doing a bad job. It's just hard. But as you said, some can be coaches. But I would like to see a repository of best practices and let it be open to the positive things that are going on, the things that are working. So I wish you would think about that.
I agree, because I know because I try to follow on Facebook or whatever the schools that are in my district, and I see great examples here and there, everywhere. So that would be good. All right, Mr. Superintendent, your next segment of this presentation.
So I'm just going to wrap things up with an update from Bill Nim. Is Bill still on the? Bill, you and your team have been manning the call-in center for the last 3 weeks, and I just want you to give the board an idea of how we started and where we are now 3 weeks later.
Yes, be happy to. Thank you. Well, if you might remember, we started manning the help desk the Thursday before school started from 7 to 7. We've continued that to this day from 7 a.m. in the morning to 7 p.m. at night. We work both Saturday and Sunday for 2 weekends. The first 2 weekends, we're no longer doing that at this point. At the beginning, I had 5 people on Monday when students returned. We had 5 people on the help desk. We soon realized that wasn't enough. We went to 9 folks answering calls with basically my entire staff working the issues. The good news is what's happened over time, I'd say all of this have matured, and I have to put a shout out to our parents and our students because there were some tough things we had to take them through. We had to, walk them through it. They were all great. I don't remember one person being upset, but they were all willing to work with us. We all knew we were in this together. For this to work, we all had to work together. And I've just been amazed by the parents and in particular by some of the students that were so young that were there. Because sometimes parents aren't technology literate, the students are. And I was amazed by our students and what they did and how professional they were and how, I don't know, it just sort of blew my mind, the positivity that was there to just make this happen and make this work. Over the last 3 weeks, like I said, I started with 5, went to 9 immediately on Monday afternoon, and then we dropped it back down to 5 the next week. This past last week, I went down to 3 working it at all times, and this week I went to 2. What I'm seeing is the calls are mature, and we started out with, how do I put this thing together? My camera doesn't work. My adapter doesn't work. To, I can't get logged in. Then the next thing we went through is I can't get into ClassLink. I don't know how to use Canvas, or I need help with Canvas. We had some problems with Zoom that were technical issues. Zoom running on older equipment. We had to take some of our parents and students through a process to fix that. But along the way, we identified, I'd say, 3 major issues we were having, and along the way, we resolved each. We had some problems with the filter causing the internet to back up a little bit, but we since resolved that as well. So I would say, starting this 4th week here, nothing's perfect. Nothing ever will be perfect with technology, but I feel a lot better about where we are and how things are working.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
Bill, one of the things I've heard a lot of frustration around has to do with Zoom dropping off or stopping and starting and stopping, and you can't get people back on, or how does that relate? And then tonight somebody made the comment, well, if we have internet's going to be even slower if we have more students on campus at the second 9 weeks. And I've had several teachers who said, during the spring retreat, as we called it, at the end of last academic year, and teachers were teaching from home, they didn't have the same kind of internet connectivity problems that they're having now that everybody's trying to teach on campus. What can we do about that, if anything? Is that a bandwidth problem for the city and the county, or are there ways that we can prop it up with hotspots at schools what do we do?
Well, actually, it's not a bandwidth problem. Like I said, the biggest issue we had was our filter, which we've now resolved. When you go to the internet from in the classroom, you go all the way out to the internet, you go to Zoom, and you come back. The students out in the environment, out in the city or town, are going to Zoom and coming back. We've had a few access points in the classroom being a problem, but what we've done as the schools have identified the process, we go out there and troubleshoot it. We found some bad access points. We had one school that was putting together unmanaged hubs that caused a problem. So what we've done is we've resolved each issue. We've worked with it. For example, a Spanish teacher, I had a parent complain that their child could not hear what the teacher was saying. And as we troubleshot that problem, it turned out to be that the Bluetooth wireless earbuds she was working were the problem. So I feel pretty good right now that the issues we may have had at the beginning, they're I would never say all resolved, but I think we're in a much better space. And we just have to have people let us know. I can't fix what I don't know about, but if they'll tell us we're having a particular issue, we do come out. We've been out to probably 5 or 6 schools looking at all those different things that could cause a problem. And we went from, before school started, from 3 gig to 6 gigabyte out. We're approaching 5 gigabyte now. We're in the process of upgrading that to 8 gigabyte going out for the internet. And so we're able to monitor the internet usage. And what a lot of people want to do is they think it's the internet, it's the internet. No, it's normally other issues that are causing problem. For the folks at home, for the students at home, we do know this is a known problem that we discovered. They were getting 1132 error. And if they're using an older computer and they were trying to use the web to get into Zoom, that caused a problem. So what we did over a week ago, we said, look, we need to get everybody to use the actual application. And we had a fix for that to upgrade those computers so that they used the latest version of Zoom. And that resolved a lot of issues with choppy voice or choppy video.
So what he's saying is we distributed over 8,500 desktops throughout our community to these kids, and some of them needed more support. So we created a video. His team created a video that we sent out to parents that could implement this fix over the course of the weekend. So it's been constantly monitoring, but we haven't pushed our bandwidth. Bandwidth has not been an issue, but what has been an issue is some of these other glitches with the devices, some of the devices we gave out to support the technology. I mean, you can also, though, Bill, put in context the number of meetings, the number of minutes, and some of that stuff that you sent. Do you know that off the top of your head?
I know at our peak time, we have about 1,500 meetings going at the same time. We've gone over 4,000 meetings a day. And so it's pretty amazing to watch it. I see, and so that's another way that we troubleshot things that were going on. If someone said they had a problem, we went and looked at their meeting, and we have enough diagnostics in the Zoom console to understand, okay, these 3 kids are having a problem. What's the commonality between them? And many times they were using the web browser. So yes, we are pushing a lot of meetings. I'll tell you that.
Well, you're saying like 1,500 meetings, and that doesn't count the ones that are on MS Teams, right?
Right. So, but in a day, we're doing about over 3,000 meetings a day. But what I'm saying, at one time, we've seen up to 1,500 meetings going on simultaneously.
Right. So that's why I'll kind of put it in context. When you have that much going on, I mean, there's bound to be, there's going to be some glitch, especially the first couple of weeks we come out of the gate. But all in all, Bill, I'm just so thankful to you and your team and Dale. And I mean, y'all were building devices. You were, just on and on and on. Just very, very thankful and very grateful. And I know our parents are as well. And I also want to echo what Bill said about our parents and our students and the way they've handled this. For the most part, they've been very patient, very understanding. But guys, remember where we were in April to where we are now? I mean, that's only 5 months ago. So we did a lot of work in a short period of time and still have, a ways to go. Obviously by the time all the glitches get worked out and we're in a perfect place, everybody will come back to school, right? But in the meantime, we're going to keep doing what we do. And finally, I was going to wait until we have an agenda item. I was going to wait to make this recognition. You have a question with Bill?
Please, before we move on from IT, Madam Chair.
Bill, are you still there?
And
Oh, awesome. Let me ask you, this is something that I think has plagued our teachers, I know since I was in the classroom, was passwords that don't work. Passwords that don't work. I mean, just something super, super simple as that. And now our teachers are, they've got a couple of kids. I saw one particular had a kid online that the password wouldn't work, and then she had one in the classroom, the password wouldn't work, and that just completely gridlocked her. Is there any way to have a chat feature or an embedded, login?
we can do one better than that.
Awesome.
And we just hadn't really had a chance to test it much. But ClassLink now offers, and that's all students log in through ClassLink to get to their applications, their content. What ClassLink now offers, and it just came out right as we were going through everything, and I didn't want to say too much about it until we had a chance to look at it, but ClassLink now allows us to allow the teacher to reset a student's password in their classroom. So I think that would be very helpful. It's basically out there. We really haven't advertised that fact yet because we wanted to play with it a little bit more, but that's what we're doing with that now.
Is there any way to make that feature where the child can attach with someone at the district or an IT support person to help them reset the password? Because I like what you're saying. You don't have to wait on your TechCon to come, from 3 classes down that it is over a whole school. But again, I hear the word, our teacher will be able to do this. Our teacher is already about at the end. And I know it sounds like nothing. I'm not kidding you. I saw a teacher holding a device with kids here. Her thing online, a parent on the phone, 10 on the computer. To stop and reset a kid's password is a really big deal. Is there any way we can add something where they can just chat with somebody who will reset it for them?
I hesitate to answer that. Let me research and see what we can do on that.
Just something to think about. The more we can do to free up our teachers with not having to reset passwords, the better. Like we talked about, we can't stop some things, but we can work on helping other things, and that is something.
Well, I guess I should say this is ClassLink allows each child to reset their password if they set it up.
And I don't
so maybe
know,
that's what we need to do is concentrate on the students knowing and doing that thing for themselves.
And I don't know if this was a password for this particular program. He kept telling her what it was, and we watched her put it in 4 times, and it would not let her in. And he's like, I don't know what to tell you. And then that was it. She's stuck, not with the rest of the class for 30 minutes.
Right.
And it's little tiny things like that.
Mm-hmm.
If there's any way, just put it
Sure.
in your.
We'll think about it.
And thank you, Bill.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Mr. Superintendent.
All right, y'all have any other questions of Mr. Nimmons before? And finally, we're going to bring an agenda item before you for consideration about our devices. But I want to bring Justin. I need to come up here. So, over the course of the summer, I asked Justin to devise a plan for the reopening of our schools to make it work without our 32,000 Chromebooks. And he immediately went to work on devising 2 plans. I gave him this plan, which was all of the fixed devices, the desktops that we had that we were going to distribute from different schools based on the numbers of kids that were requesting to stay home. And we distributed over 8,500 desktops, 8,500 dongles, 8,500 webcams, right? So this was the first Rubik's Cube I asked him to figure out. And then the mobile device Rubik's Cube I asked him to figure out. Taking all the mobile devices that we had in our inventory at each different school site that supported what we were asking it to support, along with the 4,500 we purchased to have as a savings account in addition to our 32,000 Chromebooks, and then to distribute all these to our brick and mortar kids. So if they had to quarantine or they got sick or something happened, they had a mobile device in their class in brick and mortar that they could take home, do their quarantine, and move back. Justin was able to complete both of these Rubik's Cubes, which I can't imagine how much time. So in honor of Justin Williamson, I have here a Rubik's Cube, and it says impossible to solve, but I can tell you this young man solved not only 1, but 2. He is a big reason for our success. So thank you, Justin. All right. So Mr. Jones asked for an update yesterday about devices. And I know we're going to have an item on, but I want to now, as we finish, I want you to give the board members some very encouraging news.
Please. All right. Yay.
So
Yay.
thank you, Mr. Superintendent, board members. So we have received confirmation from CDW that our Chromebooks have started to ship. And as of this afternoon, 16,500 of them are currently on semis, making their way across the country. This country. And as of about 5 o'clock this afternoon, I had a conversation with TIG. They have received the first portion of that shipment that is making their way across the country, and they've already sent them off to start etching and preparation of those devices as of today.
Woohoo!
So this is very exciting, obviously. So the plan moving forward is that we're going to look to pilot 3 schools when the first shipment arrives. We'll pilot an elementary, a middle, and a high school for about a week. And we're hoping then after that, we're going to go into our schools and start taking care of one school at a time. We haven't released our plan yet of what the process is going to be for that. But the exciting news is we are very confident that by the end of November that we will be made whole. And so that's really exciting. And so Justin and to your team, thank you. We know their devices are in the country. They're on their way, at least the first 16 or 17,000. And we're well on our way to getting back all of these desktops and passing out all of the Chromebooks. And hopefully we'll eliminate some of these other glitches. But again, this was a yeoman's effort, and I'm very appreciative. Okay, thank you.
Thanksgiving.
District 3.
Madam Chair,
District 3.
Ms. Strickland.
if I could just chime in real quick on that. And Justin, yeah, amazing. I mean, anybody who works in IT amazes me, but what you pulled off this year is like incomprehensible for us regular, normal thinking people. Like, I just can't even imagine. So thank you for all you did. So let me flip over for just a minute. Because I did hear some schools that were very, they were like, you know what, it took us 3 weeks to get here with what we have. Do not take everything and bring us new stuff. I mean, they were really, really apprehensive about it. And then another school was like, look, bring it on. Bring the Chromebooks, take all of these. We're so ready. So, gosh, so different from school to school to school. So I love the idea that there's a pilot program because I think we are going to see glitches all over again. I know it's going to be better in the long run, but and I'm sure you've already way ahead of me because I know you visited 10 times as many as I did to work with the schools that actually really want them, and you're not, and so you know exactly what I'm talking about. And then the other thing we discussed yesterday that I felt really adamant about was schools that the teachers lost their desktops, and they're trying to navigate over as soon as we can get desktops back. Please, for those schools that their teachers need those desktops, please, you can put that really high on the list. So thank you.
Ms. Bowen.
Madam Chair, Mrs. Superintendent, it will be interesting to know, hearing these comments, how you will go about making the decisions as to who gets what first, based on whatever the greatest needs are, or, I don't know, the greatest levels of achievement, or I dare not say underachievers, the left behinders, but it will be interesting once to know how you will start to distribute these new things, given the comments that we're hearing.
I don't want to get too far ahead, but for now we're going to have the pilot starting hopefully very soon at the elementary and middle and high school.
I heard that.
Yet to be determined. We're going to probably use the strength of the tech cons at those schools to weigh into how they're selected. But the good news is 50% or more of our devices are en route now to TIG to be imaged and etched, and we'll start that pilot program. And then on October, what's our next, 14th, 13th? 13th, we'll have an update of where we are, and then keep moving forward.
Okay. All right. Very good.
Madam Chair.
Is there a motion for the consent agenda? Mr. Jones.
Madam Chair, before we move from reports to be heard, I would like to ask the superintendent. We now have we have our list of reports to be heard coming from DAC, the Student District, Title I, world-class schools, and this update. We now have a standing committee or task force, the Early Learning Leon Task Force. And I wanted to know, should we add them to our list of reports to be heard, such that when that committee is convened, we would hear from them no different than we do these other councils?
Point made. Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Yes. All right, so we can make that update to the agenda.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
All right, very good. Is there a motion on the consent agenda?
So move.
Moved by Ms. Bowen, second by Mr. Jones. Any opposition? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Show it unanimously approved. That takes us to item 18, the construction consent agenda.
I do have one question. The items I had pulled, when will they be dealt with?
They will come up under consideration.
Okay, thank you.
The next consent agenda is item 18 for construction. Is there a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Wood, second by Ms. Bowen. I will abstain based on the fact that one contractor, member of our association, is on the list. That may be an overreach, but I'll abstain for the sake of transparency and in the abundance of caution. So it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Show it adopted by a vote of 4 in favor and 1 abstention. Thank you. All right, item 19.01. This is the 1010.
Madam Chair.
Ms. McKinney-Williams.
Sorry, I just want to make sure, are you taking 12.01, 12.02, and 18.01 after everything, or are you going to do those before we get to 19.01?
Usually, let's put
The three items that were pulled.
Let's get the items that are on here.
And then move them to the bottom?
Yeah,
Okay.
after 1904.
1901? No? Oh, go ahead.
So we're on 1901, the local 1010.
Yes.
Reopening. It's an MOU with 1010. Does anybody need to
Ms. McAllister, you want to
elaborate?
speak quickly to this issue, this item?
Thank you, Superintendent Hannah. Good evening, board members. This is a portion of what we developed last school year prior to COVID, or right after COVID-19 hit the Tallahassee area and the nation. This is an opportunity where we dialogue with 1010, those members who are a part of transportation, food service, and other areas in our district, where we're able to work with employees and reassign them, work with them to make sure that duties and responsibilities for the district are carried throughout in a safe manner. So this just reiterates what we talked about last spring. This MOU did come before you. It included all the bargaining units at one time. More specifically, we pulled out the 1010 unit because their positions are very unique to the district. And so we're bringing this back to you for consideration and approval.
All right, any questions?
I move approval.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Jones, second by Ms. Bowen. Any questions? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Show it unanimously approved. Mr. Albritton? Item 19.02, RAM Construction.
Good evening, Board. Item 1902 is Superintendent's recommendation for approval for RAM Construction and Development, LLC, guaranteed maximum price, contract for construction manager at risk, RFQ 424, 2018, construction manager for Fairview Middle School, Phase 5C site work, demolition of Building 1. The guaranteed maximum price is $2,463,007.06.
And this will be, as we talked about with Rickards the other day, this will be the final phase. We bring an electrical phase at the end.
Electrical comes after this.
The
It's the
okay, so
parking lot.
there'll be a small one that comes after this with electrical, right?
Move approval.
Moved by Ms. Wood, second by Ms. Bowen. Any questions? Again, I'll abstain because RAM Construction is a member of the association, is my employer. Any other questions? No. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. Show it adopted by a vote of 4 and 1 abstention. Item 19.03 was previously pulled. That takes us to 1904, ratification of a 4-year technology lease purchase agreement. Justin's approaching the well.
All right. The well.
That's what they call it.
Good evening, board members. This is the ratification for the 4-year technology purchase agreement with CDW. If you'll recall, the board had approved this for the board chair to enter into the agreement along with the superintendent back in early June. And so that agreement has been entered into and executed, and so this is simply coming back for your ratification.
This is a motion to ratify what's already been signed and transported, I'm happy to say. Any questions?
None. Yay. Move
Is there a
approval.
motion?
Second.
Motion by Ms. Wood, second by Mr. Jones. Any questions? Any opposition? Everybody in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Show it unanimously approved. Thank you. So that takes us to item 12, what was 12.01, which will now be, I guess, 19.05. Mr. Jones?
Yes, in fact, we can do both of those, 12.01 and 12.02 together. They are both presented by Dr. Alan Cox, and they're both regarding two MOUs that we have before the district.
Okay. And you wanted to discuss those further? Or
Yes, I wanted Mr. Cox to present them to us.
Okay. Dr. Cox, can you present these two items?
Yes, I will. So this is in regards to our continuing efforts in the area of mental health and behavioral health. These are two separate private providers for behavioral health. With Opal's help, during the last year and a half, we have brought several of these different groups that come into our schools, and they work with students individually that need just some special attention in their area of behavior, and mental health is a piece of that as well. So what was happening before Stoneman Douglas is we had certain groups that just had history with the district, but after the Stoneman Douglas situation and after the allocation of funds, we all of a sudden had several, actually over 15 different private providers that operate in our community. So I said, well, what we need to do is get them all on an MOU so that we all are consistent with these groups. Now, these are not hired by the Leon County school system. These are employed from the parents. So these services, it brought us consistent across the board with 15 different private providers. We have parent consent. They have to have liability insurance. They have to meet with the principal. They must be certified and licensed. And like I said, it's some 15 different groups as well. Now, because of COVID, we did restrict our visitors on our campuses, and we canceled most of our first semester activities, field trips, those kind of things. I did, however, based on listening to our task force, knowing that there are certain students that really struggle with the current situation we're in, this group I have allowed into our schools. So they are going into the schools, working with students. Once again, the parents hire these folks and working with them. That's what this is about. So this is Solution Skills and Family First of Florida. Y'all have previously approved probably at least 10 or so other groups before this over the last 2 years. That's what it is.
Okay, so this is did you have any questions or comments, Mr. Jones?
I guess I made a very false assumption. I did not realize that the parents were choosing these providers to come provide these services.
I'm not sure about it either.
I thought that these were collaborations that the district was undertaking to expand mental health offerings for our young people in the throes of a pandemic.
No. So, would you let me address that?
Yes, please.
Okay, so no, that's what these groups are doing. These groups are hired, these two in the MOU. Now, what you're talking about is the School-Based Healthcare Solutions, which is the grant that we were awarded. It's almost a $6 million grant when you think about it. That is in 20 of our schools. And that's what this MOU is a different thing. And as well as this village, which is almost $1 million a year allocation and staffing. Those are two large groups that are part of our school system that we have done MOUs with that are working directly with our students. But these particular two are private providers.
Madam Chair.
Ms. Bowen.
Dr. Cox, I'm trying to think of how I really need to ask the question. I don't need to say what's the difference in the two groups, but the extent to which services are provided. What's the difference between the services provided by the parents who are able to hire these providers and the services that are provided by the group solutions that we hire? And how are students determined to get to these various providers?
So I don't, like I said, these are private providers. They're a privately owned company.
Uh-huh.
They're not nonprofits. They parent hires through the different, like I said, 15 different companies to work with their student. Their student may have intensive behavioral needs that help keep them on task. And this was actually a law that was passed, I guess it's been about 7 years ago, that we had to allow these groups in. Now, the COVID thing kind of changed that, but I've allowed them to keep coming.
Mm-hmm.
The other groups, the other two that I mentioned are they're not one-on-one. They have a referral process. And the referral process runs through our referral coordinators at the schools, and they're referred into the school-based health care solutions. That's the new grant that we just got that covers 20 schools and the Disc Village folks and their curriculum, which is called New Horizons.
Okay. I appreciate the explanation. This provides me with greater clarity. And I guess there is a method. First of all, allow me to make a motion on acceptance of items 12.01, right?
We need to take them one at a time now. So
Okay.
this is now 1905.
1905, and I said 1905 and 1906 together, but I do the motion separately?
Yeah, we have to.
Okay,
yeah.
so I'm, okay, move.
Okay, so there's a motion by Mr. Jones, a second by Ms. Wood on what is now 1905, which previously was 1201, an MOU between Leon County Schools and Family First of Florida LLC. All in favor? Opposed? Show it unanimously approved.
Okay.
So now 19.06 is the MOU for Leon County
I
Schools.
move that one now.
Moved by Mr. Jones, second by Ms. Wood. Any questions? All in favor? Any opposed? Show it unanimously approved.
All right.
So,
Now, thank you, colleagues, for indulging me in that. I did want to get greater clarity on this issue of mental health. Now, on a separate subject, I am interested as we talk about parents who through these relationships are able to bring in outside mental health companies. I have brought this issue up before us before, and I tabled the matter because we were in the throes of the reopening of schools. I would like either through workshop or through handwritten description. I'm concerned about the issue of conversion therapy. And I had talked with Dr. Gill, and I told her I would defer until we got to the issue of the reopening of schools. Conversion therapy, as many of you may be aware, is this newfound psychobabble. I wanted to say I was trying to find something far more diplomatic than psychobabble, but demagoguery that persists. And I just wanted to know are there methods by which that type of activity occurs in our schools? And that can either be done either in writing or by agenda workshop, but I'd like to be informed of that, such that the board be informed of that we might be able to take up the issue. The city and the county have already dealt with the issue, as you all are aware, and do not permit it in their facilities, and I'd like to know what we are, and I don't want to have to delay the meeting. Again, it can be at the superintendent's discretion that the response comes to me in writing or an agenda workshop, such that we can then deal with it once we've all received that information. But with this same process in mind, I want to know how that issue is engaged in our district. Thank you.
I assume, Dr. Cox, you're not aware off the top of your head of any provider that's currently engaged in that type of practice. Is that correct? So maybe,
I'm not.
okay, so maybe we give our attorney some time to, if you could share the county and city policies or whatever's been adopted, and give her a minute to research the topic, maybe run it by the lawyers group.
And again, that can come back to us in writing,
Okay.
or agenda or workshop, whichever is preferred.
Okay, are we good on that? Okay.
Thank you.
So now we're at what was 18.01, now is 19.07, which is the school impact analysis forms. Mr. Jones?
Yes. And again, this can come back to me in writing or in an agenda workshop. I know that we do this type of analysis on all major developments. I remember the same thing when I was the chair and member of the Planning Commission. My question remains this. It has been, as I think has been described to me, and I don't want to speak inaccurately, particularly with so many of you who predate me, but I understand it has been more than a decade since we dealt with issues of zoning. And with these types of varied impact analyses over the course of a decade, when Tallahassee no longer looks like it looked 10 or 12 years ago, I want to know how would have been the impacts on our school enrollment such that we have not had to been forced to revisit school zoning. And so I'd like to learn more, again, either in writing or in workshop, learn more about how we manage these impact analyses at our schools as we're bringing all these brand new major developments to include Leilani and others, and how those don't have impact on zoning. So I'd love to get that information back. And I saw this information, this impact study today, as a perfect segue to that conversation.
And I think it was prior to Mr. Jones taking office that we had all those discussions about impact fees and all that, right? But to your point, though, Mr. Jones, we've been flat as a district for a number of
since 08 at least.
Yeah, for a number of years. Populations within our district have shifted from time to time. I think we're also recruiting a larger number of retirees to North Florida as opposed to South Florida. But as a district, we have not seen a large increase in the number of students in Leon County school system. One thing that, school choice, and we've kind of reworked how we handle school choice. Some of our school choice decisions led to overcrowding at certain schools that we're now starting to be more equitable in how we examine school choice options for our children and families, which is kind of level the playing field or even level things out at some of these schools that we're reaching high capacity numbers. There may come up a point in time that we, as a board, we bring to you the issue of rezoning. I know Dr. Gale and I talked about one specifically was was Riley Elementary School, which has a large number of students who are zoned for that school and is right at the tipping point as far as capacity. And we know that other schools like Pineview and Oak Ridge are well under capacity. So that was one that, and Sable Palm, that was one that we talked about, but this was right before COVID, that I probably will bring in the near future
and bond.
to alleviate the middle and bond as well. But it was just mainly shifting those pockets around to other schools who are well under capacity. You look at NIMS Middle School is also well under capacity, is moving those pockets of children around. This year for Riley, what we did was we moved the pre-K programs to Wesson, which then gave Miss Knight more classroom space at John G. Riley to accommodate those kids and to help with social distancing and some of those things. But to your point, yeah, I think there may come a time where we have to look at zoning issues.
So we still need a motion on 18.01.
Move approval.
Moved by Ms. Striplin.
Second.
Second by Ms. Bowen. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Show it unanimously approved. Thank you, Mr. Albritton. So that takes us to information items. Reports from board liaisons. Ms. Bowen.
Yes, Madam Chair. Board members, I am going to just give you a very brief report tonight on the Florida School Boards Association Equity Committee. I serve as the vice chair. We have been meeting quite regularly over the past few weeks, and one of the ideas that the committee came up with was to survey all of the schools in the 67 counties to see if they had an equity committee, and they sent out a survey to all of the schools in the county, the systems, and received information, or it is coming back. I will share that information with you later. Time is well spent tonight, but I want you to know that some of the questions they asked these various districts were, does your district have a clear equity policy? And if yes, you will be able to ask to provide details later. Does your district have a job position dedicated to equity work? Is there an equity director, coordinator? If so, provide information. Does the district have an advisory group on issues of equity, diversity, or is there an advisory group? Does your district use restorative justice, restorative strategies that could be seen as exemplars to others? So they're trying to reach out to see what is happening throughout the state of Florida. Again, when this information comes in, I will share it with you. I know that our district has been surveyed, and this information, I think, is being sent in as well. I will say to you that the last meeting that we held, the chair, Marcia Andrews, who serves as equity chair out of Palm Beach, Florida, decided that we should ask students what they felt and thought about equity and cultural diversity and these issues. And so upon meeting, the chair said, I want to know what the students are thinking about. Just what's on your mind. What are you thinking about? School is now open. And that's when these students started to tell us that they were concerned more about safety and the reopening of schools and the instances where there had been lack of knowledge by some of the teachers throughout the state on how to use Canvas, and they had concerns about the IT connections and such stuff. No vote was taken by our committee. This was just received for informational purposes. Again, I'll be bringing an update frequently. One of the things I thought that we missed as a committee was that in hindsight, I wish that we had talked to these students first about what they thought should be happening, or I think we missed the need to establish an opportunity to get input from the students and to get that kind of input and feedback from them, because they are a major constituency. We brought in to that particular meeting students who represented the Florida Association of Student Councils, all right, the executive board. Our student who represents us is a student at Leon High School. She serves as the district president of District 1. So it was a wonderful discussion. It's an important topic, and I will keep you updated from time to time as we meet. The director of the Florida School Boards Association of Student Councils is Dr. Mel John. Attending that meeting, serving as our consultant to what we do, is the executive director, the CEO of Florida School Boards Association, Andrew Messina. And you know already that Jane Godwin is the president of the Florida School Boards Association. So as the results of the survey comes in, I will share those with you, and as thoughts from students from around the state of Florida, that information is shared, I'll bring that back tonight. I'll bring that back at another night's meeting.
Thank you, ma'am.
Welcome.
All right, Mr. Superintendent, any further comments?
If I just would ask Miss Bowen, did the young lady from Leon High School, did she weigh in on this conversation?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Superintendent. She did, and her name, I can give her name, can't I?
Sure.
Yes. Her name is Megan Steele. She is a student at Leon High School, and she is the president of District 1, which makes up several of the other counties. She did an outstanding job in bringing forth information about her thoughts about how school was starting and the connectivity, a lack thereof, the teachers, training, and that kind of thing. Some students were more outspoken and had different other areas. A lot of the students brought up the need to have the kind of multicultural understanding about gay and lesbian students of the LGBTQ. So we have students who run the gamut of talking about safety to talking about what how you need or should be treated. Then it dawned on me that these students had not been with each other for 4 months. And here we were trying to bring them into our circle about, what do you think about equity? And at this point, they were thinking about COVID. I want to be safe. I've got to get back into school. I need to be getting myself together to go to college. And so sometimes, the babes will lead us. And so I found that to be just very enlightening. And so I hope that we'll be able to bring them back again and get that kind of feedback. You would be very proud. Our students are just so wonderful. And they listen to many of the topics that we talk about. And as I hear what we, are talking about tonight with teachers and their concerns, be beyond safely. So
and I think one of my takeaways, though, from your comments and what you mentioned, that students throughout the state of Florida were sharing similar experiences and frustrations with Canvas, with teacher training, with technology, with all the. And so Leon County, I don't think is stuck on an island of our own. That all students from throughout the state at this conference were expressing these same types of frustrations. So I think that's important for us to realize and remember. That there are a lot of other districts in the state of Florida are struggling with the exact same issues that we are, and everybody's working as hard as they possibly can to right the ship and to make this easier for our teachers and our students and our parents.
Right. Megan did an outstanding job, so shout out to Megan.
Superintendent, could I add something to that? I wonder if our student Arsha Harris is still with us, because she's had to listen a lot. But is she on Zoom with us?
I imagine she's long gone.
She's not. Okay. Well, maybe she will in the future. And I think this is a good segue to your discussion about how do we involve our students in solving these problems. And one might be the thing that I mentioned about having a collaborative board where we could talk about best practices. But, we could start asking, she, as our school board member, could start gathering information from students on what they like and what they think's going well and what works for them. And the other thing, if you remember at the end of last year, we had those students from Rickards who had started a tutoring service.
Yeah.
And there has never been a better time for our students to step up to the plate and offer to tutor other students. And it can all be done digitally. And I just sort of want to do a shout out to all our service clubs in our schools that have those kinds of, aspirations to do community service. This is the moment that if they could all collectively work as students to offer at every school a tutoring service, I think that would just be fabulous. And so I wanted to sort of lay out that gauntlet to Ms. Harris to say maybe that's something that the SDAC could work on those two issues.
Absolutely.
I love it.
And
Madam
I will
Chair.
say one more quick thing. This particular student group is totally plugged in. They are wired. They did not back up off of the school board members at all. When they did not feel that they were in agreement, they said, "I'm sorry, ma'am, but we just don't agree with that. Let me tell you what is happening at my school." And often a school board member would offer some defense. I don't mean to offend you. However, we're there every day and we know what's happening. So this is the caliber of student that we're working in. So when you get that kind of, I'm going to call it transparency and honesty again about what they're doing, to me it was just really invigorating, and I felt really, really, really wonderful to have that kind of input. So I enjoyed that Zoom meeting, as you can tell. Okay. Thank you.
Jones.
I just want to, as we talk about student engagement, I want to remind the district of our own Madeline FIOC and the Madeline resolution. I don't know if we've set a date certain yet for district-wide registration of voters at all 5 of our high schools, but I just want to always just keep that before us. I know that the date for the for registration to be qualified to vote in November's election, that date is coming very, very soon. So I just want to make certain that we have captured that.
Dr. Gale, did you want to say
Today? Oh, you had to register by today to vote in November? Right, I remember.
So we haven't registered young people to vote in the November election?
I think.
She said today's the deadline for the upcoming election.
But when Madeline did her resolution, if I recall correctly, it established specifically every year the day after MLK Day.
The Tuesday after MLK Day.
And those, so when they did that back in January, it pre-registered students who were going to be 18 by the November election.
By the election day.
Right. So, but I don't think there's been an additional. Okay.
I'm good. I'm great.
All mine's clear-ish?
I do. So we're at the end of the agenda now?
Yes, we are.
There is one thing I would like to share about a very special staff person in my district, in District 3 at the Pineview Elementary School. One of our staff persons found a 95-year-old man laying prostrate in his yard. He immediately went into action, got in his car, went to the senior citizen, the citizen's yard, mobilized EMT, and when he discovered the man there, found out that he had been there for hours. His quick response saved his life, as you can imagine, and his family is grateful. Again, 95 years old, found in his yard in the middle of the day, and I just wanted to acknowledge Mr. Richard Pouncell at the Pineview Elementary School for his having discovered that man and being moved to to leave his post, get in his car, and ultimately save that man's life. And I just wanted to acknowledge him, particularly on a day when we are acknowledging our great staff people and the great work that they do. I wanted to add this was just 2 days ago, and I wanted to share, just a few days ago, and I just wanted to share that with our school district and everyone who's watching our meeting. Again, thank you for a job well done, Mr. Richard Pouncell at the Pineview Elementary School, where Carmen Adams Connor is our principal.
Y'all remember Mr. Ponzell? We recognized him. He's been at the building maintenance supervisor at Pineview as long as I am old. And that's a long time.
Really?
Yeah.
He's absolutely amazing.
That is so good.
Wonderful story.
And I add one more person to, at least posthumously, to appreciate tonight, and that's Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And I was so appreciative that our student led our thought for the day with that. I know many of us here are at this dais in large part because of her fights for equality, gender-based equity.
Yes.
And she's a very tiny woman, but she did giant things, and really mourn her passing. And she said so many interesting things, but I'm going to leave with this one because it's probably apropos for us, for everyone in the district. She said, "Don't be distracted by emotions like anger, envy, and resentment. These just zap energy and waste time." So maybe we can end on that.
That is so great. And we're
Perfect
glad.
ending. Thank you, Ms. Wood.
Wait, just before, please, I will be quickly. In my life, this is so personal but professional. One of my steel magnolias. Give me a minute. Turns 87 years old today. And her name is Eva Lorene Curtis. And so I honor her for being who she's been in my life. And I certainly do honor and respect all the work that the notorious Aura B.G. did. Thank you all. Now you may end. Thank you.
So Ms. Wood and Ms. Bowen move we rise.
Yes, we do. Oh.